Hello everyone, this is Ivana and I'm Diego, and I'm gonna tell you 5 tips so that you can save money when you're reptile keeping or invertebrate keeping. The first tip I'm gonna tell you guys is to grab and collect your own resources. You don't wanna go to a pet store and buy, I don't know, a 1 gallon bag of leaf litter for $10. That is not gonna be worth it since you can go to some trees like I do and collect your own leaf litter. This is red cottonwood, which is a type of hardwood, and then this is sugar maple, which is also a type of hardwood tree. We usually recommend to grab leaves from hardwood trees, especially for isopods or millipedes, which is the wood that they're going to be eating. You can do the same thing with cork and bark. You're gonna find a lot of cork, bark, sticks, branches from these trees, and you have to sanitize them, but you're not gonna have to be spending these crazy amounts of money on resources that you can literally find in the nature. I'm going to be showing you some ways in which you can clean your own sticks and your own bark or cork so that you can do this on your own. One way is to use 1 part bleach and 10 parts water. That would not be safe for millipedes or isopods, but it would be safe for reptiles. Reptiles do not eat the wood, but millipedes and isopods can eat the wood. So you do not want to put bleach or any other chemicals in the wood that you're going to be giving them. So you can do this technique and soak the materials that you're going to be using for your reptiles in bleach, 1 part bleach, 10 parts water for 20 to 30 minutes, and then you want to rinse it off properly so that there's no remaining bleach in it. But if you want to do it for millipedes or isopods, I recommend to just use boiling water and then bake it. What I do with larger pieces is I boil a bunch of water, I'd say 1 gallon of water maybe, and then I pour it all over the sticks and branches, and I make sure that I soak it as well, so any bugs might drown or any bigger arthropods will drown and they would not contaminate your reptile enclosure or your millipede enclosure. So after you soak them and pour boiling water, you're gonna want to set your oven at around 300 to 350 Fahrenheit, and then you want to bake it for anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe an hour. You want to make sure that they're not too small to the point where they can burn. So if there's smaller sticks or smaller branches or smaller pieces of bark, cork, you can set the oven at 250 or 200 Fahrenheit and maybe bake it for an hour or an hour and 30 minutes. I usually do 350 for 30 minutes. It works well for me. I know that there's nothing that is going to be contaminating my millipedes after 30 minutes of a 350 Fahrenheit shower. So that does the trick for me. Maybe it works different for you with different pests or different insects. So I recommend 350 for 30 minutes, but maybe you want to do a different time and a different temperature. The second tip would be to not buy enclosures or all these materials at pet stores. Most pet stores are gonna rip you off and they're gonna overcharge you for things that are super basic and super inexpensive. An example is peat moss or sphagnum moss. You're gonna find, maybe in the flower section, you're gonna find really cheap sphagnum moss. You can also find it at the Home Depot, or you can find maybe mulch at the Home Depot as well, dirt. We all know that reptile soil is like $10 to $20 for a bag. You can find easily $3 bags of really similar quality soil at the Home Depot, and you're not gonna have to spend all that much money. Another tip would be to go to Facebook Marketplace or the Craigslist, and you're gonna find used enclosures like Exoterras or really expensive enclosures that can cost over $200. You might find them for less than $50. So Facebook Marketplace is a place where I go to buy all of my enclosures. Another tip would be to go to reptile expos where you can find used tanks and you can find branded peat moss, branded cocoa husk, or branded reptile soil for cheaper than at the pet stores. So if you want to go to reptile expos, you're also gonna find cheaper reptiles and cheaper animals since you don't have to pay 80 or more dollars in overnight shipping with FedEx. You can just go there and buy the snake or your reptile. This girl was from a reptile expo. She was super tiny when I got her. It's been a year since I have her, and now she's getting big, and I didn't pay $50 to $100 with overnight shipping. So you should definitely go to Reptile Expos, and if you're looking for one, go to the Lafayette Expo, where we will be selling the 17th of February 2024 from 10 to 4. The last tip would be to breed your own feeders. You don't want to be spending money every week, maybe $10 to $15 in maybe mice and crickets and dubias and superworms and waxworms and every single insect that you want to give to your reptile as a feeder. You might not want to be spending all that much money, so you could start your own breeding colonies. It is super easy. Some are harder than others. For example, superworms are easy, but they require more time. For example, I got these ones in here where they are right now in the pupa stage. So that's a worm. It's right now in that C shape before turning into a pupa. So you can leave them in a small box or a small enclosure for a couple weeks. Usually it takes 3 to 4 weeks for them to do the whole process. And they do not require any food during this time, because if you give them food, they're not going to turn into a pupa. So you put them in a small enclosure, and then after some weeks, they're going to turn into pupas and then beetles, and then they reproduce, and you have tiny superworms that then you feed, and then they grow, and you can feed them to your reptile. So crickets are easier. You just put them in a tub with egg tray and some place to lay the eggs, and then tiny pinhead crickets are gonna hatch, and then they just grow and you can feed them. Mealworms are super easy as well. They are the same than a superworm, but they take less time to breed and less time to grow. Super easy, all of them. Sometimes you do it without even wanting to. You might forget that you have mealworms for some time, and then they turn into beetles, and then they reproduce on their own, and you have tiny mealworms that almost look like maggots. You can give it a try and breed your own feeders. Maybe you can breed your own mice for the snakes. Setting up a breeding colony for your mice isn't hard at all. You need some space. I have a 20-gallon tank with a cage on top that connects it, so it's about 20 gallons in space. And then I have like 3 or 4 in that one. You cannot have 2 males together, but you can have several females with 1 male. And then in a few weeks, you're gonna have mice, super easy. Pinky mice are super useful for a lot of other reptiles. Some frogs can eat them, a lot of snakes eat them, some tarantulas can eat them, scorpions can eat them. So pinky mice are something that you wanna have access to every week, and they're super easy to breed. Also, it's gonna be more ethical if you breed them than if they're in a huge facility where they give them the bare minimum. So if you're gonna do it the best way possible. You can find a lot of guides on the internet on how to breed mice ethically for feeders, and then you will be able to give them their best life until they die and they get eaten by your pet snake or frog or whatever. So I hope these tips were useful. If you want in-depth guides on how to breed your own superworms or your own crickets or your own mice, we can do more in-depth guides and tips, since we've been doing this for a few years. I hope you guys found this video useful, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and maybe comment what video you want to see next or any questions that you might have, and we will answer as soon as we can. Thank you so much for following us and for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video.